Hey, what's going on, everybody? So welcome to my first Code Along live stream. So what I'm going to be doing here is building out some user authentication and registration into an existing Django application. So I am putting together a new course, and I wanted to make sure that this is done live so I can practice on it. I'm trying to go more for that classroom-like environment. So what I'm going to be doing is cloning a repo and then going through that. So I'm going to try to give a little bit of instruction before we get started, but what I'm going to do is just go ahead and start coding, and we'll see how this stream goes. I'm not sure if I'll keep it up after, but it should be some good practice here. So thank you, everybody who's here, for joining. I appreciate that. First time I'm streaming at this hour. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and get started by actually cloning the repo. It's in the video description. And this is to a photo sharing application. Let me actually pull up that image here. I actually might have it on my desktop, so give me 1 second. So go into the video description if you want to check it out, but this is going to be a photo sharing application, and I just realized the image is in the repo. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay, let me add that to the stream. Okay, so we are on the GitHub repo, or in GitHub, I guess. And we have this photo album right here. So this application basically allows us to upload photos and search them. That's basically all it does. The whole point of this application itself was just to show you how to basically upload images into S3 buckets. And what I want to do here is add in a feature so users have to log in before they can see them. So I'm not sure how far I'll get into this, but we'll add in basically login and then permissions. So a user won't be able to access certain pages until they're logged in. And then we'll add in registration, logout functionality. And then I'm also going to add it to where a user can only view their own photos. So at first, you'll be able to just log in and view all the photos here. And then eventually, you can only see your own. So I'm going to try keeping my screen like this. I just want to have my face in it. I know StreamYards is a little bit limited. If the pictures or if the video gets a little bit small, let me know, and I'll just go full screen and take my face out of here. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go ahead and clone this repo. And we're just going to get things started. I'm going to create a user, and we'll just go from there. So let me, whoops, accidentally opened up OBS here. Okay, so let's open up our command prompt, and I'm just going to go ahead and clone this. So we'll just cd into my desktop. That's where I'll keep it, and then we'll just do a git clone. So I copied that URL. We'll go ahead and clone it there. That'll take a second, and I'm going to open this up in VS Code here. Taking a little bit longer than I expected. Okay, so there we go. We have the application cloned. I'm going to close out my terminal. So I'm going to use VS Code for this. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Okay, so we have VS Code open. Let's go ahead and open that project up. That should be on my desktop now, and that's going to be photo sharing app here. So I'm going to run this, and then we'll just do a quick run through of the application itself. So open up the terminal there. Let's just do Python manage.py run server. Okay, let's go ahead and get that open now. Okay, so here's the application. There's no authentication here yet. You can just log in, or anybody can open up the application and search. They can filter through by categories, and anybody at this point can add an image. I just spit on my mic here. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's just do testing for the description. Let's select the category. We'll just say travel. Let's pick an image off my desktop, and I probably should have actually prepped some, but let's just go ahead and take this picture of myself here. Well, actually, I'll just do an old thumbnail. Okay, so that image is now in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding registration. So what I want to do is actually create a super user. I don't remember what the original user's password is. I guess I can test it. So let's go to the admin panel. And usually I'm used to working on bold screen, so this is going to be a challenge here. So let's open this up. We'll go to port 8000. And I guess I use the same exact information here. So, or the same credentials. So authorization versus authentication. Let's talk about how Django does this. So authorization and authentication, for those of you that don't know what that is, authorization is where, one second here, let's see, authentication. I have to look through some notes here. This is so weird during a live stream. Okay, so authorization is where we authorize a user, and I'm probably going to completely butcher this, but basically one is for where we can decide what a user, we identify a user, and another one is when we decide what a user could do. So authentication versus authorization. Yeah, so that's basically the summary of that. Let me try to find the actual description before I just butcher this. So authentication is where we determine who a user is and their credentials, such as a username and password. So when a user types their information in, let's just try this. So when I'm logging in, this is to the default Django admin panel. When I hit login, this is authentication. We authenticate the user based off of my information. If this user exists in the database, if the password's correct, then that user is authenticated. And then authorization is determining what a user can do on the website. So checking your permissions and so on. So how Django does this actually is Django uses sessions. So right now, we're using session-based authentication because that's what Django does by default. So if you go to inspect element here, and let's go ahead and go into application, and I believe that was in session storage or cookies. Let's see. Okay, so if you look at this, let's go ahead and log this user out. So when we click log out, what actually happens is this session gets deleted. So I'll delete everything from here. And let's take a look at what happens again when we log in. So when I click login, right now we're just using the default Django admin panel. We can see a session get generated. So now when we open up the website later, the computer will remember who the user is based on the session stored in the cookies. So we use this session to check the user every time. So this way, every time you turn off the website or close it out from the browser and get back on, you don't have to keep re-authenticating yourself. This session is stored, and that's what Django's doing. So this is what we're going to build in right now. We're just going to build that in a custom way, but the Django admin panel does it the same exact way that we do this. So let's go ahead and close this out. We'll close out the admin panel, and let's get started with the application. So I'm going to open up VS Code. And let's go ahead and start by building out our first page here. So right now, if we go into, let me turn off my phone here. So let's go into photos. So this is the app right here. I'm going to go into my first, or into templates here. And right now, if we look into the views file, we have a gallery, which is that homepage that we saw. Then we have a view photo section, or a view photo view, and then an add photo view. So 3 pages, that's all we have right now. So add photo, that's one template. This is the gallery template, and then the view photo. So let's start by adding in a page, and this page is going to be the same for registration and login in. So let's just do login _ register. Login register.html. And what I'm going to do is just create some boilerplate files. I realized in the original tutorial, I didn't create a main template that we're inheriting from. So we're just going to have to do it this way. And this is what happens when you live code and mess up like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this out, and we'll just do login and register. That's going to be the title here. And let's just say login page. So let's just use an H1 tag, and we'll say login. Okay, so we have our template, and let's go into our views now. So we'll go into the view, and we're going to create our first login view here. So I'm going to call this login page. And the reason for this is because I don't want it to conflict with an existing function that we're going to use here. So we'll just do login page. And that's going to be a simple function-based view. Pass in request here, return, and let's get our page. So we'll just render that out. And we need to pass in request here. And then we'll just do, let's see, what did I call the app? So the app is called Photos. So that's in Photos, and then that's login _ register.html. Okay, so we have our view and we have our template. Right now, we just have some text there. So let's go ahead and go into the URLs here. And what I'm going to do is just keep it all in the same app. So we'll create our new path here. And let's see, we're going to call this login, and then the view. That's going to be views.login login page. So I'm just going to paste that in, and then we'll pass in the name, and we'll just name this login. And if you have questions, go ahead and ask. I don't know how much I'll be able to get to during a coding stream here, so we'll see. But let's go ahead and ask away, and I'll try to get to whatever I can along with keeping the stream active. Okay, so if I go to /login now, there we go. We have our first template. So what I'm going to do is actually take the login form from Bootstrap. So let's go to Bootstrap, and I don't want to have to build this out and style it during the stream. So we'll do some custom styling, but for now we'll just take what Bootstrap gives us, and then let's just do form. And we're going to take a login form. So we'll just take this, and we'll have to modify this a little bit. So here's the code. We'll copy all of that, copy to clipboard, and let's go to our login register template. So I'll paste that in right here. And I also need to add Bootstrap into my code here. So let's just go to Bootstrap. I need to add in the CDN link so we can actually get the styling. So let's just take the CSS, and I won't even bother with the JavaScript. I don't think we need that. The form does not require that. And we'll just save that. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so if I refresh that, there we go. We have a pretty ugly form. I want to go ahead and style this a little bit. So let's go ahead and let's see. We'll go into the template, and I'm going to add in my styling directly inside here. So I'm not going to add in an external link. So that's out of the scope of this tutorial. So let's just go ahead and add some styling here. And let's see, what can we do here? So let me minimize this actually. Okay, so I don't want to add in this message right here. We will never share your email to anyone. I want to leave that out. I'll leave the for. I can leave that right there, but I'm going to change this to username. So Django by default is going to be using the username. We'll change it to that. And then I also need to give it a name. So I noticed that Bootstrap by default doesn't give us a name for that form. So this needs to be username because that's how we're going to get it in the back end. And let's go into the password, and we'll just set the name, and this is going to be password. Okay, let's see. So we have our form still. We took that out. I'll take out check me out. I don't need that in there. So let's see. I can completely take this check out. All right. And let's go ahead and add a wrapper around this entire body here. So we'll just go ahead and create a div. And we'll just create a container here. So I want to center this. Give that the class. So we have Bootstrap, so I can just add in a container. That should center it. Let's just try to move this in a little bit. Try to move that to the right. Okay, so that added some padding there. The form looks a little bit better. And I'll just do a little bit more styling here. So let's see. I can add in a wrapper around it. So we'll just do another div here. And we'll just call this login wrapper or something like that. So it's just going to be for the page. So I'll just do that with a class. Let's just do login -- wrapper. Okay, so let's see. We'll just take login wrapper here. And what I'm going to do is first display it as flex. And I'm going to try to center it here. So we'll just do align items. We'll do center. And I also need to make this or give it a viewport height. So let's just do 80. We'll do height and then 80 viewport height. 80 VH. Go ahead and see what that looks like. Go full screen. Okay, so that's a little bit more centered. I also want it centered right here. So let's try that. Let's give our form a class actually. And I want to give the form a width, and I also want to center that. So we'll just do justify content center. Okay, we'll just add in some styling for our form. And we'll just do a width of 600. We won't make it responsive. I might add that towards the end of the stream, but we'll just set that to 600 pixels. So let's see what we have. Okay, so we have our login form. Doesn't look great, but it's there. Let's just add in some heading here. Log in, and then we'll just say some kind of like sub headline or something. So let's just do H4, and then we'll just say log in to view photos, share with your friends. Okay. Oh, what happened there? I just realized I probably put that outside of the form, so that needs to go in the form because we're displaying that as flex. All right. So not much Django stuff here just yet, but here we go. There's our login form, and that looks decent with a little bit of Bootstrap styling. So now we want to make this functional. So what I want to do is go ahead and make sure that when a user fills out this form, they can actually log in. So let's see. I did write a little bit of notes down here before this stream here. So yeah, we want to start logging in. So what I want to do actually is go to the home page. And let's see if a user's logged in. What happened here? Oh, I'm just really zoomed in. That's kind of the issue here. So let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. That looks better. So if a user is logged in, we want to see a custom message. So let's go back into our gallery, and I'm going to put this just above this column right here. So I'm going to put it right here. So let's go back here. That's going to be in categories. We have a card, and let's just put that above the card in the column. And we'll just write a condition. So if the user is authenticated, then we'll show it. So we'll just say if request.user.is_authenticated. Then let's go ahead and say hello and then the username. So we'll have to put an end if there. Okay, and then let's just add that in text here. So we want to make that small. We'll just say hello, and then we can just take the user. We can just do request.user. So request.user. So we only want to show it if a user is logged in. So let's go ahead and refresh that. We don't see it. Oh, we do see it right now. So if I go into the admin panel and log out as this user, so if we log out, now that message shouldn't be there. Okay, so it's gone. All right, so let's go back into our view now. And I just realized that we need to first send some post data. So let's just do this. We need to add in a Csrf token. So let's just do Csrf_token. So that needs to be sent with every form. And we want to send this as a post method. So we'll just do method is equal to post. Okay, so when we send this data, let's go ahead and send it to the backend. So let me refresh the page itself. I guess we're going to have to go to that page anyway. So I'm going to close out that. We'll close out the GitHub repo. And let's go into the view. So in this view, what do we want to do here? At this point, we're just rendering our template. We don't need to use a model form. That is one option. Django does give us a login form. I believe it was called authentication form. I don't remember the actual name of that, but it does give that to us. We just made that manually because it's just two form fields. So let's go ahead and start writing this out. So we'll just check for the post method. So we'll just say if request.method is equal to post. Then let's go ahead and start taking our username and our password. So we'll just do username. That's going to be equal to request.post. So request.post like that. And then we'll just take the username. So remember, we named this field in the form username. So that's how we call that. And then we also want our password. So let's just go ahead and get the password. And that's going to be request.password. And that's pretty much it. So we get that data. Now we do need to make some imports, and I see some comments. Let's see. I don't see any somewhere in a different language. Okay, so I thought they were about the project, so let's just focus on that for now, and then I might go into a few later. So, okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to authenticate a user. So we want to know that this user is in the database. So we want to check that first. So we want to take this username and password. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to import a function, and this is going to be called Authenticate. So we're just going to do from Django.contrib auth, and this is going to be Django.contrib. Let's import Authenticate. Okay, so this function is going to be the first thing that we're going to run. When we send this data, we're first going to check the user. So why does this have underlines? Django.contrib.auth. That looks correct, so let's just go with it. So we're going to set the user, and we're going to use this authenticate function. So what we need to do in here is we need to pass in the request. so the original request, and we need to pass in the username. So username, that's going to be equal to the username that we just got right here, and we need to pass in the password. Okay, so we have the password now, and this user is first validated. So if the user is authenticated, this is going to return a user object if we have one. If not, then it's just going to stop and we can write in our errors later. But we're going to start by creating another condition, and we're going to say if user is not none. So if there is a user, we authenticated this user, the username and password worked, then let's go ahead and log this user in. And there's another function that comes from this import, and that's going to be login. So from Django.contrib.auth, there is our login function. And this is why we didn't name the login view just login, because it would conflict there. So we called it login page. So I guess I could have called that login user, but let's just go with it. So let's just do login now. So we found the user, and we need to pass in the request again. And we'll just throw in the user that we got. This means the user is now logged in. So this is going to create that session. It's going to put that into our cookies. The user is now officially logged in. We want to do a little bit more than that. We want to redirect our user. So if the user is logged in, let's go ahead and take this redirect function. So that was already imported from before. Let's just go ahead and redirect this user. So we'll just do redirect. And that URL, let's go ahead and check that. That URL was called gallery. So we'll use the dynamic URL naming here. And we'll just redirect the user to gallery. Okay, so let's go ahead and test that. So we check if it's a post method. We get the information from the form. We get the user object. We check if that username and password was correct. And if there is that user, then we check if we got that user, we log that user in, and then redirect him into the gallery. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so right now I'm just going to go into the login page manually. I don't have a link there. Let's try this. And I just realized I left that as an email field in the template. So the type is going to be text. We have our post request. Everything I think looks good. I guess we'll find out the issues as we go. So we have our user, we have our password that already autofills, and that didn't work. Let's see what happened. So let's just open up the terminal. Let's give ourselves some space here. Okay, so what's going on here? We are sending the request to log in, and that is not working. So let's try to debug this live. So request.method, that's post. We get the username, password. Let's just try printing out this user object. So we'll just do print. Let's see if we get the user. Okay, let's try that. Let's send that request. We get the user. So the user is where we got the user. Looks like the login is not working. Oh, we have to return redirect. Let's see. Yeah, I see that in the comment section. Thank you. So this is what I was hoping for. This is really fun, actually. So return redirect. That should work now. Okay, let's try that. Boom, we are logged in. So let's go to inspect here, and let's go into our cookies. Application, cookies, there we go. We have our session. That's the cookie value right there. And if I try to log out, actually, let's write that in right now. Let's just go ahead and delete the session. Let's go back into our login page. If we go ahead and hit login, there we go. When that login function runs, so this is what's actually causing it. It's the login function. This function right here is what creates that, and the user is logged in. So before we get that or get to that, let's actually see. So we have our welcome message. So there we go. That looks good too. All right. So we have the welcome message. Let's go ahead and add in a login required decorator. So we want to restrict users that are not logged in. So let's say this application is now available only to users that are logged in. So before we add in that login functionality, let's go ahead and add this decorator. Okay, so that is going to be imported from here. And let's see, that's going to be from Django. Everyone can see the screen all right here. Seems like it's good, no complaints yet. So from Django let's see, and I do have this in notes, so I don't remember everything perfectly. So from Django contrib auth decorator. So from Django.contrib auth.decorators. Okay, so we're using function-based views, so we're just going to add in decorators. We could use class-based views. In this case, you would add in mixins, or you could write your own middleware for this. There's different ways of doing this, but we are just going to restrict a user using the decorator. So the login required decorator, this is a Python concept, so you should be familiar with decorators. If not, look them up. They're basically a way of wrapping a function, which in this case, it's a view, and it adds in extra requirements or extra functionality to a function. So what we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and go into every single view that we want to restrict. So we don't want a user going into the gallery page. So let's just do login required. And we want to first require this view, require a user to be logged in. And if they are not, we want to add in a login URL. So this means where are they going to be redirected to if they're not logged in. So we want to send them to the login page so they start logging in. So we'll add that to the view photo view. And then the add photo view. So we obviously don't want users adding photos if they are not logged in. So let's go ahead and try this out. User is in here. Let's go ahead and inspect element. We'll delete that session. Let's delete it and let's try this. Okay, there we go. We're redirected and we're back in the login page. If I try to go to that gallery, it just redirects us. Once we log in, now we're logged in and we're good. Okay, so let's add the log out view. So the log out view, this is going to be very simple. We're going to go into our views. We'll close out the URLs here, close out the gallery. We want to add this in from Django, contrib, and auth right here. So this is where we're importing it from. So they're all from the same area. We're going to add in the logout function, and we'll add that underneath the login page. This is actually going to bother me, so let's just change this to login user. And I need to change the URL here. So I keep some consistency. So user, just like that. Okay. So create the function just underneath here, login user, and we can't, or log out user. That's in request here. And we'll return. We're just going to redirect the user. So return like that, and then we'll just do redirect. When a user is logged out, we want to log them out back to the login page. So we want them sent back. You could have some kind of confirmation page that says you're logged out, but we're just going to send them back to the login page and prompt them to log back in. Now for this, this is very easy. We're just going to use a logout function. And all we do is pass in the request. So this is going to go ahead and delete that session, and we're done. So let's go into our URLs here. Let's copy this. This will be that logout user view here. And we'll just set that to logout. Change the name here. All right, so log in and log out user. So all we're going to do here is we'll go into the template. Let's go into gallery, and we can only log out, or I'll set it to where we can only log out from this page. So I'll just add this underneath that add photo button. So we'll just copy that entire button, and we'll just do log out here. And then this will send us to the log out page. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. Refresh it. Log out, we're redirected. Log in, we are back in. So there we go. We have login and log out functionality. Pretty simple. There's different ways of doing this, but that's what the functionality does for us at this point. Okay, so next, what I wanted to do is create that registration. So the registration, I'm actually going to use a built-in form here, and then we are going to customize that form. So I will spend a little bit of time styling that form. I didn't really want to go into detail on that, but we'll style it just because I want to make sure it looks somewhat good. So let's go back into our views, and we'll close out the URL here, and let's create the login view. So I'll add that just underneath logout. So let's just go ahead and write this from scratch. We'll just do login or register user. I'm going to case that, so capital U. Someone says, will there be a VOD? I'm not sure what that means. Let's clarify that. Okay, so return, render, and what we're going to do is we will actually render the same page. We're just going to write a condition here. So there's different ways of doing this. If we use JavaScript, that would even be easier, or it would be better because all we have to do is toggle that, just toggle the form, and then that changes what form gets output. But for now, we're going to hack this a little bit. So we'll just do login underscore register HTML, and we want to pass in the context dictionary. So We don't have one just yet. I'll create that. Okay, so we have an empty context dictionary, and I'm going to go into the URLs here. Let's go ahead and add that underneath here. We'll just do register. And then this is going to be register user. So the view we just created. And give me some feedback if you guys think the stream is decent. Obviously, I know I'm doing this for the first time, so I'm probably not doing too well. But if this is actually useful to you, if you're actually picking anything up, I know that live streams can be a little bit different, and as far as actually learning, because you're not really coding along. But yeah, give me feedback there. So what I'm going to do here, so this is that hack of telling us which form to actually render. So first, let's throw in the form, and what we're going to do is throw in the user creation form, and then we'll add in that hack. So for this, we're just going to do from Django. This is going to be from contrib.auth.form. So from django.contrib.auth.forms, and we're just going to import user creation form. So there's different ways I'm doing this. I personally like the manual way of doing this because I feel like I have more control over what happens, but it does very well, or it does the job and it makes things simple. So for beginners, I'll probably just teach them to use this. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. Actually, I see the comments here. Okay, so let's go ahead and render that form. Let's see, we'll go into our register view and we'll just do form. And we're just going to use a user creation form. We'll pass this in, throw that in through the context dictionary. And now what I'm going to do is go back into the template. And let's go ahead and actually adjust this here. So the first thing I want to do is ask if a user needs an account. So let's just add in some text here, and we'll just say, don't have an account. Okay, so if they don't have an account, we'll just add in a link right here, and we will prompt them to register. So we'll just do register. And the link here is going to go into the register page. So the URL here. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. So if I refresh that, don't have an account, register, login, register doesn't exist. Let's see, what did I do here? Photos, login, register.html. Something's not working right here. Oh, photos. Okay, so that's not photo. Okay, so if we go to register, you notice that the page changes, or the link right here, the URL changes, but the actual form doesn't, so register. Okay, so this is what we're going to fix up right now. So first of all, I want to add in some spacing. That looks pretty ugly there. So let's give ourselves some space. Fix that. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So here is going to be the little hack that we add here, or the workaround. I'm just going to create a variable called page, and we're just going to say register. And we will take this variable right here, pass that into the context dictionary. And I guess I don't need to add it to the login page, but we might as well. And this will just be login. So we will throw that in here. We won't create a full context dictionary. We'll just throw this in right here. Okay. Okay, so now when we go into the page, or now when we go to each view, we have a variable called page, and it's going to be either login or register. So now if we go in here, what I'm going to do is write a condition, and we're just going to put this above the form, and we're just going to say if page is equal to login, then we'll render this form, and if it's not, we will render an entirely different form. So let's just do end if here, and we'll write our condition. So else is going to be the register page. So if it's not the login page, that means we are on the registration page. So let's go ahead and actually build out a new form. Let's do form. Okay, give me 1 second. So we have a form. We'll set the method. Method is going to be post. We'll add in a Csrf token. Csrf underscore token. And I'll go into Q&A towards the end. So if you have questions about what's going on here, I'll hold off for a little bit. So let's pass in the form. Remember, we went in our views and we have this user creation form. So that's going to give us a bunch of fields there. And I'm going to take this final submit button, and we'll just throw that right here. Okay, so instead of don't have an account, we'll just say have an account with a question mark, or we'll just say already. So already have an account. Already have an account. Then if they do, we'll redirect them to the login page. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. All right, so we have our form. Let's go ahead and add in some text at the top here. So let's take this H1 tag, add that to this form now. We'll just say register. Okay, so the form is ugly. We're going to style this, but because we are going to be using a Django model form, technically that custom creation form is like a built-in model form. It looks pretty ugly right now, and we can't style it like we normally would by just adding some classes in the HTML. So we actually have to customize the model form itself. So now we have our register form. And what I want to do here is first make sure it works. Once we can get, you know what, actually let's style this first because I want to show you that. So the default user creation form, I'm not a big fan of what comes out right here. I don't like all the fields, and I can't customize it unless I override it. So what I'm going to do actually is go into my app, and I'm going to go into my app. So that's called photos, and I'm going to create a new forms.py file. And this is going to be where I store some model forms. So for those of you that don't know what model forms are, they're a way of creating a form based around a model. So it's going to take any object you have, and then it's just going to create fields based on what the model says. So let's just see, or let's just start with it. So we'll just do from Django.forms. Let's import model form. So we'll start there. Then we also need to import the user. So we'll just do from Django.contrib. .auth, and then we'll just import, actually it's going to be .auth.models. Just import user creation form. So we're going to start where we're going to import the user. Okay, so I'm going to copy this right here. So from Django.contrib.forms or auth forms, like that, we will pass in this user creation form that we imported here. So we don't need this in our views anymore. And if I save that, that's probably going to break something for now, but we don't need to worry about that. So we're going to import the user creation form. Now what I want to do is override that form. So we're just going to create a class here. And this is going to be custom user creation form. So I just pasted that in. And I'm going to inherit from, because this is a class, we can inherit from that object. So we're going to inherit from user creation form, and then we're going to customize all of our fields. So I still need to specify the meta here. So we'll just do class meta, and then that's going to be set to the model of the user, and then the fields. I want to limit this. So let's just do fields. And the fields here, I just want the username. When they register, I don't really care for getting their name right now. And we just want the passwords. So we want password. So password 1, that's what the form calls it. And we also want that confirm password, and that's just going to be simply password 2. Okay, so we have our form. And at this point, it's not going to be anything special. I think it's going to look actually exactly the same. User creation form is not defined. Okay, so I didn't realize I didn't import that. So now that we have our custom user creation form, I'm going to go ahead and go into my views, and we're just going to do from forms, import, and we're going to import that new custom user creation form. So I'm going to go into register, and we're just going to take that new form and paste that in. So now we're working with an entirely new form. It looks exactly the same because we just inherited from the original form. So there's nothing new here. And I'm going to show you why I did what I did, because in that user creation form, you just kind of get the default fields. But what if I wanted to add in an email field? By default, the user creation form doesn't output that for you. So this is why we inherit it and we just extend it. But why I really wanted to do this is for styling. So if you notice in here, if we go into the template, the default or the Bootstrap forms, let's say we were working with some kind of library or we were working with Bootstrap, in order to style the form fields like the register page. So if we go to login or like the login page, we have to add in certain classes here and IDs. In this case, we just have to add the class form label. So I want to add that, but there's no way of just adding that because we're throwing in the form like that. So we need to add it to the class. So let's go ahead and customize this. So what I'm going to do is first override the init function. So init here, underscore, underscore, and then we just need to take in self, then star args and quargs. So args, so arguments and keyword arguments. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and overwrite that, and then we just need to add in super. And we are going to go ahead and start with the user creation form. In here, we need to pass in self again, and then we're just going to do underscore init underscore, and I'm just going to copy and paste this again, so I'm not writing this out. It's a little bit difficult while streaming. Okay, so we add in that super function, and everything looks correct. Let's see. Yeah, I just want to make sure that's right. So underneath super, so we're overriding that init method. We're just going to go into self.fields, and then we're just going to go ahead and start with the username. So username. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and add in some widgets here or customize the widgets. And there's a few ways of doing this. But in here, in this case, I'm just going to do it with that init method. So we're just going to go ahead and go to widget.attributes. So attrs.update. And let's select the attribute that we want to update. So in this case, this is going to be a dictionary. And we're just going to say we want to update the class. And I want to give this class, or give this a class of form-control. Sorry about that. So control. Okay. So the username field will now have this class, which means that it can be styled. So if everything went correctly, that should style this form. So I'm going to go to register. Let's see. Looks like there's an error. Let's go ahead and check this out, debug it live. Okay, so the init method, oh, I forgot to add in something here. So let's see, inside of init, I forgot to add a comma. Okay, so that should do it now. One more time. All right, what's going on here? So we have the init method, self, args, quargs, super, self.fields. Let's see if anyone in the comment section. Okay, tuple and dictionary, something's not working here. So it's inside the update function. In the update function, no, it's not the update function. Here, let me try something real quick. Let me just try to override that init method or the super method. Wasn't a spacing issue, I don't think. Okay, so there we go. All right, so you notice how this field right here is styled, password is not, and password confirmation is not. So what we did here is we went into that form, we found a field here, and we just updated an attribute and gave it the class of form control, which in Bootstrap styles that. So all I have to do here is just go ahead and repeat this. Again, there's different ways of doing this, but I just need to go into password 1 and password 2, and they're all going to get that same class right there. So if I refresh this, there we go. That form looks a lot better. Now, I don't care for this. I personally like to write this myself. So in the future, I would just customize this, but I really don't like what's going on here. So there's a different way of rendering out forms, and not everyone knows about this. I've noticed anytime I show it, people are kind of surprised that you can do this. But what you could do is you can actually loop through your form. So we can do for field and forms. And I'm going to write the end for here. Okay, so what we can do here is I'm going to go ahead and go into one of these fields, into the Bootstrap field, because I want all the styling there. Let's just grab this one right here. We'll paste that in. So as we're looping over those form fields, we have the label here, and I'll just leave this right here. That's not a big deal. I'm just going to do form or field. So as the field, as we're iterating through the fields, we can take that field and then just add in that label. So we added that label here. Then for the input, I'm just going to completely remove this because we already have that class. we added that the form control class inside of that class from forms.py, and we'll just do field here. So just to reiterate that, we're just going into the form, we're going into fields. So for field in the form, let's go ahead and iterate through that. Let's output the field and let's output the field label. So if I save this, let's see. What did I do wrong here? So for field in forms or form, okay. There's not multiple forms. All right, there we go. So let's say I want to add in some placeholder stuff here into the form. So what I could do is just go ahead and go in here, say placeholder, raw area. Okay, so right here. The placeholder, and this is going to be, let's just say enter username. We'll just do ... Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Boom, we have some placeholder text. And in here, let's just go ahead and let's copy this placeholder and we'll add that to these other two. So I'm so zoomed in that it's kind of hard for me to see the screen. Let me try to minimize that. Okay. So we'll add that right here and then we'll just do enter password. And then paste that in right here. I know we're going a little bit longer on the styling, but we'll just do confirm password. I really wanted to go into this part. So confirm. Right. So there we go. We have our two passwords, all the placeholder text, and voila, there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually make this work. So nothing at this point is happening. So we want to go into that register function and we want to make something happen. So we're sending post data. We have a Csrf token. Let's go ahead and go into this page. So Csrf token is there. It's a post method. So now we need to go back into the register user view. So right now we're just outputting the form and we're passing in the value of the page. So let's go ahead and take that post method. So we'll just do if request a method. This is equal to post. Let's go ahead and first get our form. We'll take this form right here, the custom user creation form, and we just want to pass in that post data. So this is pretty standard. This is working with Django model forms. This is what you do anytime you're working with CRUD here. So we have the form. We'll just say if form dot is valid. So we want to check that everything was clean, everything's good. Let's go ahead and create that user. So before we create that user, because I want to log this user in right away, I need to actually get that user object. So I could just say form.save like this. Then I'm done. But I want to log this user in right away. Some websites would have you go to the login page. I figured if they registered, they know their information, they're validated, so we should be good there. So let's just do this. Let's just do user, and then we'll just do form.save. And we can, not forms, I've done that twice already. So we can just do form.save, and then we'll just do commit, and that's going to be equal to false. So basically, it's not going to complete the process here. So now we have the user object. If you check this out, this is a user just like querying the user from a database. So we have the user, we will save the user, so we'll go ahead and confirm that, but we're not redirecting or doing anything yet. We have the user object, so we just submitted the form, we passed in the form data, we are storing that user, we save the user, so the user at this point is created. Now here, we're just gonna go ahead and use that same authenticate function that we used in login. In fact, let me just take this right here. So this is that authenticate function for those of you that are late here. We imported this just authenticates a user. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I just realized I don't think I need to do this right now. I'll probably test it after, towards the end of the stream, but let's see. Yeah, because I have the user. I'm not sure if we need that. It's kind of interesting. Learn something new just right now. So let's see. Now we're going to check if this user actually exists. So if user is not none. Yeah, that's funny. I realize this might be repetitive, but we'll fix it later. So we'll just do, if the user is not none, let's go ahead and redirect or log in the user. So we'll pass in request just like we did earlier. So let's go into this login section. We're going into login. We're taking that login function also imported right here. And we are logging that user in. So that's going to create a session. So we create the user, then we log the user in. So let's see. The theme, there's no theme. We're just using Bootstrap. Yeah, I see someone saying just use login. I think that's probably what I'm going to try here. So once they're good, let's just do return. And we'll just do redirect. And we're going to redirect the user into the gallery page. Okay, so Eric, I'm going to use your name because you commented recently. I'm going to create an account for you. So we create the user and we log that user in. So let's go ahead and see if everything is working. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Let's just use Eric here. Enter a password. We'll just say welcome1, or I don't know why I'm telling you the password, but we'll just use something simple. That's probably not a safe enough password, so let's just go ahead and use something else. Okay, username is not defined. Let's see what's going on here. Username is not defined. Oh, I guess I didn't pull out the user from, okay, so what I can do here, that's right. So user.username. That should do it. Okay, so I'll take in a user. Do I have password? The password, what I'm going to have to do is go into request post, and we're going to have to pull out that password. So we'll just do password, and then we'll take password 1 because that's what that form does for us. Remember, there's password 1 and password 2, which means password 2 is a confirmation. Okay. Password is not hashed. It doesn't need to be hashed because the user creation form is taking care of it for us. So if we were gonna manually create the user, yes, we would need to hash the password, but user creation form already does that for us. So Eric, let's try this one more time, and it might have created a user for us already. So let's just do Eric1. Let me confirm this. I think I may have actually. Okay, let's try that one more time. All right, there we go. Hello, Eric1. We won't save the information. Now Eric is logged in. So what we just did is we registered Eric and we logged him in. Everything looks like it's good. I keep saying something about a loop. What we're doing is we're looping through the form field. So we could just output the form, but because I wanted to customize the form fields and do something else with them, I didn't want just all of that form data. I just loop through the fields. That's what we did there. I'm assuming that's what you're asking about. Okay, so we'll log out. Let's go ahead and log in as Eric1. And there we go. Eric is logged in. We'll log out. Now we'll log in as Dennis. So there's a few things that I'm still going to do here. So now we're logged in as Dennis. All right, we're good. The page is restricted. Everything's being taken care of. But at this point, all we have is an application that the password will be stored. Really, let's see. Let's check that. I didn't know that. Let me log in as a super admin. Okay, what I'm going to do is move this off the screen just because even though it's a dummy password, I don't want anybody seeing passwords that I test with. No, so the password is not raw. It was hashed. So the user creation form takes care of that for us. So no, it doesn't do that. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Okay. So all we have is an application that users can add information to. But what if we wanted to change this to where this is an application that users can store their own photos in, something that maybe they can share with other people. So what we're going to do is start rendering out our own pictures. So right now, this is the public data. Anybody can add a photo. So let's go ahead and change this. So what we're going to need to do here is we'll go into our create view first. Actually, let's go into the gallery view. Okay, so gallery, what we have here, let's actually pull up the models. All we have is a category and a photo model. So we have two models, and basically it's a parent-child relationship between a category and a photo, which thinking about it right now is probably not the best way to actually structure this. So what we'll need to do is first create a many-to-one relationship with a category to a user. So let's just go ahead and do this. We'll just do user. And I'm just going to copy and paste the import from forms.py. So we have a user. We'll go into the model, and let's just do models dot foreign key. That's going to be connected to that user object. And usually I would connect this to like a profile object. I tend to want to extend that and create a one-to-one relationship between a profile and a user. But we'll just use that user for now because that's how the application was set up. So we'll just do on delete. It's going to be models dot. Let's just do set null. So if a user is deleted, I don't want to delete the category. And let's just set null to true. because right now we already have categories and that wouldn't let us migrate without having to add a default. And we'll also set blank to true. Okay, so we just added a user to a category. Now I know that could go to photo, but because I did things this way, it's going to be to category. So let's go ahead and run that migration. Here's the terminal, so Python manage.py make migration. I don't like using widget tweaks personally, because I don't typically use the forms the way I just did. I tend to want to use something like React or any kind of front end framework on the front end. So I don't care for widget tweaks, but if that works for you, do it. There's also crispy forms. I see Joe coding phase is in the chat here. Joe, I'm doing my first code along, so I think it's doing decent. I kind of started off rough, but yeah. So Python manage.py. So we applied the migrations, and now we actually want to run them. So migration or migrate. Put me off, Joe. Okay, so now we have it added. The photos are officially, the category officially has a parent-child relationship to a user. So now that we have that, let's go into this category or into this gallery view here. So what I'm going to do here, we do have some search functionality here, so I have to adjust a few things. The first thing is I'm going to go in here. So if we don't have a filter applied, let's just change this. So we don't want to get everything. I still want to apply a filter. Let's just do filter, and then we'll set the user value because we just created that in a category. So let's see, we added that not to the photo, but to the category. So that's to the photo object. So we'll just do category __. So we'll just query upwards, and we'll just do category user, and we'll set that to user. Now we need to get that user. So what we're going to do is get that logged in user. So we'll just do request, or user is going to be set to the request.user. So this will get us the current user that has a session in the cookies. So we're taking that user and we're filtering the photos. So now only logged in user can see their own photos. So now we have no photos because this user hasn't created any photos. Now if I do filter, I can still see photos. Why is that? In this case, I have it to where we have a filter being run right here, and we also just need to add this user filter to that. And then our categories, let's just see. So for the categories, I'm just going to apply user, and that's going to be the user. So this is going to be the categories that get output on this right side here. So these ones. Okay, so users is not defined. What did I do here? Misspelled that, users. Okay, there we go. Okay, we have, that needs to be filter. Someone's saying don't delete the video. Yeah, I might leave it up. We'll see if it's, I'll try to rewatch that intro if it was horrible. If anything, what I'll do is I will put it to private or just unlist it and then go ahead and put that up on my website or something. Okay, so right now we don't see any photos. We don't see categories because this user doesn't have any photos or categories. So if I go into the admin panel, let's just manually apply one right here. So we'll go into categories and let's just say Sulamita and Dennis. So I'll go ahead and apply it to the user that's logged in, and I'm logged in as Dennis right now. We should see, oh, I have a filter on, so we'll just do all, and there we go. So I can see these right here. But I can't see food and travel because those aren't connected to a specific user. So right now on add, when we add a photo, we want to be able to add a photo with this user in mind when the user is logged in. So I'm just going to go into, and I know this is a little bit out of scope of the video because the video was meant to teach registration and authentication. We already did that, but we're just applying this information to this user. So we're just trying to extend it a little bit. And I probably will upload the GitHub source code too for this, or I'll just make another repo for it. Okay, so now in the add photo function, so we query our categories, and in this case, we're querying all the categories. I only want to get the categories applied to a user. I either want to get my own categories or I want to be able to create my own category. So I either want to get my categories or create a new one. So let's just apply a filter here. So in this case, instead of querying it this way, let's just do this. Let's do user. The user is going to be taken from the request objects, so request.user, and then we can just do user.category _set.all. So we're just getting all the users' categories. It's just a different way to do this. And that's going to be categories like that. Okay, so now if I go ahead and check this out, so I see I see travel, food, Sulamith and Dennis, and nature. So if I refresh this, I should only see one category that is under Sulamith and Dennis. Why is that? That's because in categories, we only have this one applied. These other categories aren't by this user, in this case, Dennis. So we just updated the categories. Now, when a user submits a category, what I need to do is, I guess when a user creates a category, because we have an option not to select one, but we can create one. I want to make sure that this category is applied to this user. So we have category.objects.get or create. Let's just go ahead and do user, and that's going to be equal to user, add in a comma. This user is taken from this right here. And let's see, category, what else am I doing here? So I also want to query the user here. Yeah, so I think I want to add the user to this section. I don't know, actually. Let's try this. Okay. We're logged in as Dennis. Let's say I want to create a new category. Let's just, what's a category that we can use? Let's just say coding. So coding, that's going to be a new category. We're going to choose an image, and I don't really have any selected. Let's just do this picture right here from a stream that I did earlier. Okay, actually, since Joe, I think he's still in the audience, I have an old thumbnail from mine and Joe's stream. We'll submit that. For the description, we'll just say Dennis and Joe. Okay, we submit that. Now we have Sulamith and Dennis, and we have coding. So that's a new category we just created. If I go to all, there we go. So what if I log out and log in as Eric? So we'll just do Eric. And I believe we did Eric1 for his username. So Eric1. Password is already auto-filled. Eric has no categories. He has no photos uploaded. We'll add in a photo. Let's just do dot for the description. We will create a new category. Let's just say personal, and we will upload a picture. Let's just grab this picture right here. So I like my desktop. We'll use that, my desktop screensaver. So there we go. We have an application that only users can, or that only logged in users can use, and only logged in users can view their own photos. So I'm going to log out, log back in as Dennis. There we have it. So we handled login, functionality, registration, and log out functionality. So that's it for the video. I'm going to go ahead and go into the chat, and we'll just spend some time here. This was my first live stream code-along tutorial, so that was kind of fun. Got a little bit more comfortable towards the end. Let me just move this around a little bit. Change my screen size, actually. Let's see. Okay, so did you guys enjoy the code along? I see a bunch of comments. I'm going to try to go through these. I'm not sure if you actually pick up on anything or if you're just watching me code. If I post it after, I know that it might be a longer tutorial. I'll probably will add in another tutorial like that on a different application probably. And I do have one already like that in my Django CRM course. But the original tutorial for that video is linked up. The GitHub repo, if you wanted to follow along and do exactly what I did, clone it, add these features. Let's see. How long have you been coding for? This is year number 3, I think. I started at the end of 2017. Yeah, so it's like 3.5 years. Can Django be used to develop tiers? I'm not sure what end tiers are. Remember me login. I'm not going to do that live. I'll try to figure out how to add that. I might have to look into that. Thank you. I appreciate that. So it looks like some people are learning. Really appreciate that feedback. I have videos on how to host it. It's a simple application. You can follow that tutorial. Then I also have tutorials on how to host it. So just apply those same tutorials. Probably won't push this one live. Code with Tommy's here. Yeah, I'm finally settled in Florida, so I have time to stream. I've been doing a lot of talking streams with people, a few by myself, and I'm trying some code-alongs. I'm trying to make my tutorials better. So that's like the main purpose of this is I'm doing tutorials, and the problem is I don't talk and code until I'm filming a tutorial. So I'm too fresh when I start coding. So I'm trying to get more into that teacher classroom environment where I can speak comfortably, be okay with mess ups, and just code and not have to have so many misspells, because I do misspell a lot. I type slower when I'm recording or streaming or something like that. So I'm just trying to break myself into it and just get more comfortable with it. So with that being said, thank you, Vaults, if I'm pronouncing that right. With that being said, that's going to be it for this stream. I appreciate it. Thank you, Anatoly. Yeah, I think that's it, Anatoly. Appreciate everyone jumping in to say hello. Different time of streaming too. So yeah, I didn't know what kind of audience I would have at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday. So that's going to be it. I appreciate everyone for joining. Hope you guys learned something.